Koduri Srisaila Sri Rajamouli is an Indian film director and screenwriter who primarily works in Telugu cinema. He is the highest paid director in India, and is known for his action, fantasy, and epic genre films. Three of his films, Bahubali, The Beginning, Bahubali 2, The Conclusion, and RRR are among the top 5 highest-grossing films in India to date. All three films were also the most expensive Indian films ever made at the time of their release. He is a recipient of various national and international honors including 2 Saturn Awards, 3 National Film Awards, 4 Filmfare Awards South, and 5 Nandi Awards. In 2016, the Government of India honoured him with the Padma Shri, for his contributions to the field of art. Rajamouli has directed 12 feature films so far, and all of them were successful at the box office. Bahubali 2 is currently the highest-grossing film in India, and sold over 10 crore tickets during its box office run, the highest estimated admissions for any film in India since Sholay. The 2009 fantasy action film Magadhira was the highest-grossing Telugu film ever at the time. His 2012 film Ega won the Most Original Film at the 8th Toronto After Dark Film Festival. Bahubali films have received 6 Saturn Award nominations, with Bahubali 2 winning the Best International Film. RRR is nominated in 3 categories at the 47th Saturn Awards, including a Best Director nomination, winning the Best International Film. Rajamouli's films are often characterized by their epic grandeur, larger-than-life characters, stylized action sequences, and unbridled heroism with historical and mythological references. His films are noted for their integration of CGI with practical effects. With his Bahubali films, he has pioneered the pan-Indian film movement, wherein a film is simultaneously released in multiple Indian languages across the country, and made in a way that appeals to the audience cutting across the linguistic and cultural barriers. He is also credited for expanding the market of Telugu cinema and South Indian cinema into North India and international markets. Early life. Koduri Srisaila Sri Rajamouli was born on October 10, 1973 in a Telugu family in Amarshwara camp near Manvi in Raichur district of present-day Karnataka state, to V. Vijayendra Prasad and Rajanandini. His parents are ardent devotees of Lord Shiva. Rajamouli was born after his mother had a dream when she visited the pilgrimage site of Srisailam. Hence, he was named Srisaila Sri Rajamouli. He has one sister. Rajamouli's family hails from Kavur near Rajamundry in Andhra Pradesh. His mother's family hails from Vizag, Andhra Pradesh, and Rajamouli lived there for several years. Rajamouli grew up in a joint family. His father and his 5 brothers lived in the same house with their families. Prasad's family had lands in Kavur which were lost when the railway's lines were laid through them. Then, Prasad and his family moved to Karnataka from Kavur in 1968. He, along with his elder brother K.V. Sivashankar, bought 7 acres of paddy fields in Higher Katikal village of Manvi Taluk in Raichur district. Their family moved back to Kavur in 1977. Rajamouli was educated in Kavur till 4th standard and then shifted to Alluru where he studied till intermediate first year. He then took a break of 2 years and finished his intermediate second year in Kavur. After that, he did not pursue any further formal education. Rajamouli was passionate about storytelling right from his second standard. When he was 7 years old, his grandmother introduced him to the epics Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavata. At the same age, his father introduced him to Amar Chitra Katha comics that featured stories on Indian historical figures, religious legends, and folktales. It had a huge impact on him and developed his penchant for larger-than-life characters. He would remember those stories and the films he watched and then retell them to his friends in his own way. His mother was keen on him learning English and would take him to watch English-language films in the nearby towns. She encouraged him to read comics and storybooks in his free time and never pressurized him in his academics. His father recollects about Rajamouli's childhood: he was not an ambitious child. For a long time, we did not know what interested him. He showed some inclination towards films. He played the role of young Krishna in a film I directed. Rajamouli's grandfather was a wealthy landlord who owned 360 acres of land. By the time Rajamouli was 10 or 11 years old, they lost much of their wealth. As his father Vijayendra Prasad and uncle Sivashakta Datta were passionate about filmmaking, they sold most of their remaining assets and shifted to Madras to make films. They started many films that went unfinished. They faced financial losses and started working as ghostwriters to make ends meet. 13 members of his extended family started living in a 2-room apartment in Madras. Rajamouli recollects his family sitting together and making fun of themselves and their condition at the time, but they were never sad about it. Later Prasad established himself as a screenwriter with films like Babili Simam and Garana Bulodu. Wanting to make another film, his father then co-produced and directed a film called Ardhanji with his life savings. Rajamouli recalls about that film: I was very actively involved in the project as an associate director. I felt that film was my child, even though I didn't direct the film. It was a miserable failure. My family went into a debt trap. It took us years to pick up and put the pieces together. All of that strongly stayed in my mind. That was a very low period for me. I then decided to never take anything for granted. It imbibed in me the work ethic to make everything perfect and interesting for the audience, no matter how small or unimportant that scene or shot might be. That lowest phase of my life taught me how I should work later on in my career. Early work. Rajamouli started his film career as an apprentice to the veteran film editor Koduri Venkatswara Rao and worked with him for 6 months. Rajamouli recollects, even in my early 20s, I didn't know how to plan for my future. My father would constantly scold me for doing nothing. I joined films just to get away from his nagging. Slowly, I found my love for direction. He worked at AVM Recording Theatre in Chennai for a few days. He also worked as an assistant director to Kranthai Kumar for some time. Then, he assisted his father Vijayendra Prasad for 6 years. He started writing for films but was always disappointed by the execution of his stories by other directors. His frustration as a writer motivated him to become a director so that he can bring out his vision as a writer perfectly onto the screen. He then shifted to Hyderabad from Chennai and worked with his relative Gunnam Gungarayu, from whom he learned about the practical aspect of filmmaking. Later, under the supervision of K. Raghavendra Rao, he directed social message-oriented commercials. He also directed some advertisements for Telugu Desam Party. He then worked for 1.5 years as the director of the Telugu TV serial Santhai Nivasam along with Varamula Putti, which was produced by Raghavendra Rao and aired on ETV. In an interview in 2005, Rajamouli called it the most arduous period in his life as he used to work for 17 hours a day. He recalled, my main aim while working in television was to get Mr. Rao's approval. During my TV days, I didn't have much of an idea of what I was making. The good thing was that I was a hard worker, and I earned the nickname Work Devil. 2001-2008, film debut and breakthrough. In 2001, Raghavendra Rao offered Rajamouli the chance to direct a feature film under his production titled Student No. 1, which the latter accepted. Raghavendra Rao provided the screenplay in addition to supervising the direction. Rajamouli later regretted not working for a longer time as an assistant director. When I made my first film Student No. 1, I didn't know how to use a crane because I never used a crane while I was doing my TV serial. Student No. 1 was a coming-of-age romantic action film and was the second film of Junior NTR in a lead role. Rajamouli would go on to collaborate with Junior NTR in 3 more films. The film was a critical and commercial success and was Junior NTR's first successful film. It took 2 years for Rajamouli to come up with his second film Simhadri. After his first film, he realized that the kind of films he wanted to make had more drama and action, and so he made Simhadri, an action masala film. It marked Rajamouli's first collaboration with his father Vijayendra Prasad, who provided the story. Simhadri was also the first film penned by Rajamouli. The film emerged as a blockbuster and became one of the highest-grossing Telugu films ever at the time. In the 2-year gap between Student No. 1 and Simhadri, Rajamouli planned his first mythological film with Malayalam actor Mohanlal, but the film eventually got shelved. In 2015, assistant art director Manu Jagath, who later worked as the art director for Bahubali, released several sketches he had drawn for the shelved Mohanlal project. During the same period he was also supposed to direct a fantasy film with Prakash Kavlamudi as the lead, but the film was shelved due to financial reasons. Rajamouli's third film was Sai, starring Nithin and Jenalaya. He recalls, "I got plenty of offers after the success of Simhadri. But I deliberately made a decision not to make an emotionally charged mass film like Simhadri immediately. I don't want to get branded as mass director. Hence I did Sai, which is radically different compared to Simhadri. It was a first-of-its-kind film in Telugu cinema, in that it was based on the sport of rugby. This film was also the first instance where Rajamouli collaborated with K.K. Senthil Kumar, who would eventually work with him on 7 more films. Sai was commercially successful and won 4 Nandi Awards. Sai made a huge impact on the Telugu popular culture through its popularization of rugby to the masses. His next venture was Chhatrapathy, an action drama set in Vizag dealing with the plight of refugees. Chhatrapathy starred Prabhas in the lead role with music composed by M. Keeravani and cinematography by Senthil Kumar. It was Rajamouli's 4th consecutive hit and became one of the highest-grossing Telugu films of the year. In his next project Vikramarkudu, Rajamouli worked with Ravi Teja and Anushka Shetty. Rajamouli was attacked during the shooting of the film near Nanakramguda in Hyderabad. He suffered a hairline fracture on his hand and was admitted into a nearby Apollo hospital. Vikramarkudu was a breakthrough film for Anushka Shetty. The film was screened at the International Film Festival of India in the mainstream section. The film was a big success and was remade into several Indian languages including Kannada as Veeram Madikeri, Tamil as Siruthai, and Hindi as Rowdy Rathore. He then directed Yamadanga, a fantasy action comedy film starring JRNTR, Priyamani, Mohan Babu, and Mamata Mohandas. The plot follows Raja, a thief who is killed by his rivals. Raja's soul travels to Naraka to face the trail for his sins by Yama, the Hindu god of death and justice. The film was successful at the box office and became one of the highest-grossing Telugu films ever at the time. Rajamouli started his own production company Visvamitra Creations, named after the ancient Indian sage Visvamitra. Prabhas acted as Visvamitra for the logo shoot of the company. Yamadanga was produced under the Visvamitra Creations banner, but the producers were Cherry and Urmila Gunnam, with Rama Rajamouli presenting the film. 2009-2014, critical acclaim and recognition. Rajamouli's next venture was the fantasy action film Magadhira, starring Ram Charan and Kajal Agarwal. Made on a budget of 3,544 crore, it was the most expensive Telugu film at the time. It was the first Telugu film to list a visual effects producer in its credits. Magadhira became one of the biggest commercial successes in Telugu cinema and was the highest-grossing Telugu film at the end of its theatrical run. For Magadhira, Rajamouli won the Nandi Award for Best Director and Filmfare Award for Best Director Telugu. The film also won the National Award for Best Choreography and Best Special Effects at the 57th National Film Awards and a total of 6 Filmfare Awards South and 9 Nandi Awards. The film's success catapulted both the leads into stardom. Magadhira was dubbed into Tamil as Maviran and into Malayalam as Dira, the Warrior, and was released on May 27, 2011. Both the dubbed versions were successful and earned a good fan base for Ram Charan in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The Japanese dubbed version of the film released in August 2018 and became one of the highest-grossing Indian films ever at the Japanese box office. In 2014, it was remade in Bengali as Yada, the Warrior. In 2010 he directed the action-comedy film Mariyada Ramana starring Sunil and Salani. Rajamouli watched the 1923 silent comedy film Our Hospitality and liked it immensely. He wanted to retell the same story in his own way. He tried to contact the original creators but found out that the original writers of the film were long dead and that the film's copyright had expired as it had been over 75 years since the film's release. His cousin S.S. Kanchi and him then adapted that story with a Rayalaseema backdrop focusing on the factional violence and hospitality that coexisted in the region. Regarding his decision to make a small film like Mariyada Ramana, he remarked, "I decided that my next project would be Mariyada Ramana during Magadhira shooting itself because Magadhira is a 1.5-year project that demands lot of physical labor and mental strain. I didn't want to commit another physically exhausting film immediately after Magadhira." Mariyada Ramana opened to favorable reviews from critics. It became one of the highest-grossing Telugu films of 2010. It received 4 Nandi Awards, including Best Popular Feature Film. Mariyada Ramana was remade in Hindi as Son of Sardar and into other languages like Kannada, Bengali, Tamil, and Malayalam. In 2012 Rajamouli stated in an interview with Ma TV that Mariyada Ramana was his personal favourite among all the films he had directed. His next project was the fantasy action film Ega. The film was produced by Sai Korapati's Varai Kalana Chitram with an estimated budget of 3040 crore. It was simultaneously filmed in Tamil language with the title Non-Ee. The film stars Sudeep, Nani, and Samantha. The idea of Ega originated in the mid-1990s in Vijayendra Prasad's mind. At that time, he was joking about a housefly seeking revenge on a human in a conversation with his son Rajamouli. After completing Mariyada Ramana, Rajamouli reconsidered the concept after thinking of directing a film that was distinct from any other. He explained it thus: "When I started making films, I stuck to formula films for a while which did well at the box office. After a while, I was getting too comfortable with what I was doing, so I wanted to experiment with something completely different. I wanted to take the audience by surprise, and that is when I went back to the story I had heard 16 years ago." Upon release, the film received widespread critical acclaim including for Rajamouli's direction. It became one of the highest-grossing Telugu films of all time. The Tamil version Non-Ee and Malayalam version Icha were also big hits at the box office. The Hindi-dubbed version Makai underperformed at the box office, which Rajamouli attributed to a poor promotional strategy. But the satellite rights of Makai were sold at a price of 8 crore to Star Gold, by far the highest price ever paid for the Hindi dub of a Telugu film at the time. Ega was screened at various international film festivals including the 2013 Cannes Film Festival. The Telugu version won 9 awards, including Most Original Film at the 8th Annual Toronto After Dark Film Festival. Ega won 2 National Film Awards and 5 South Film Fair Awards including Best Telugu Film and Best Telugu Director. Speaking at an event, filmmaker Shekhar Kapur said regional cinema is surpassing Hindi cinema in content and story, and cited Ega as an example. Kapur said he was impressed with its story and use of technology, and called it no less than a Hollywood superhero film. Ega was listed among the 25 best foreign films of the decade by The Ringer. 2015 present I/I Pan-Indian and international acclaim. None. Upcoming projects. Rajamouli is committed to collaborate with actor Mahesh Babu. The film, touted to be a jungle adventure set in Africa, is expected to begin its production in 2023. While attending the 2022 Toronto International Film Festival, he revealed more details about the project. "My next film with Mahesh Babu will be a globe-trotting action adventure. It's going to be a kind of James Bond or Indiana Jones film with Indian roots." In September 2022, he signed with the American talent agency Creative Artists Agency in a move that has been described as a coup for the agency. There were also reports of him planning a live-action animated film rooted in Indian content. In August 2022, he revealed that he was working on a couple of scripts that would be suitable to be made as animation films. Rajamouli frequently speaks about his intention to make a film based on the Indian epic Mahabharata in the future. He thinks it will be at least a 4-part project requiring a time period of 6 to 10 years. In May 2017 he noted, "I don't want to compromise in making it, and the huge project is going to take 10 years perhaps. I am apprehensive as to whether I will be able to execute such a technically superior project." He had also revealed that the film series may not feature established movie stars. "This is the kind of film that will not work out if I rope in stars. Once the different characters are designed, I would have to hunt for the right artists and mold them accordingly," he said. In July 2022 he said, "Mahabharata has been my long dream project, but it will take a long time for me to step into that ocean. Before I step into Mahabharata I want to make, maybe, 3 or 4 films." He also expressed his wish on several occasions to make films on the historical rulers Sri Krishnadevaraja, Rajaraja Narendra, Kakatiyas, Rani Abaka. Personal life. Rajamouli married Rama, sister-in-law of his cousin Kiravani, in 2001. After their marriage, Rama has worked as a costume designer for many of Rajamouli's films. He has adopted Karthikeya, Rama's son, from her previous marriage. The couple also has an adopted daughter Mayuka. Karthikeya is married to Pooja Prasad, niece of Telugu actor Jagapathy Babu. Rajamouli's cousin, Kiravani, has worked as the music composer for all of his films. His other cousins Kalyani Malik and Srilekha are also music composers. S.S. Kanchi, a screenwriter and actor known for his role in the sitcom Amrutham, is also one of his cousins. He collaborated with Rajamouli as a script doctor on many of his films and also acted in 4 of his films. Raja Koduri, a senior vice president at Intel, is also a cousin of his. Rajamouli considers K. Raghavendra Rao as his guru and mentor. He called Gunnam Gungarayu his philosopher and guide who made an impact on his worldview. Rajamouli is nicknamed Jakanna after the legendary c.12th century sculptor Jakanachari, who is credited with building numerous temples during the Hoysala reign. The moniker was coined by actor Rajiv Khanakala during the making of the TV serial Santhai Nivasam, directed by Rajamouli, and was in reference to his work ethic and perfectionism like the famed sculptor. Regarding his religious views, he noted in a March 2022 interview, "I don't believe in God or religion the way it is portrayed now. But if you ask me, do you believe in the existence of God? I'd say I don't know." At Beyond Fest 2022 in Los Angeles, Rajamouli noted that he is not a Hindu in a religious sense, but added that he is a follower of Hindu Dharma, as a way of life and philosophy. In 2017, Chandrababu Naidu, then Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, consulted Rajamouli for inputs on the design of Amaravati, the proposed capital of the state. Cinematic sensibility. Themes. Rajamouli's films are often larger-than-life and epic in scale. His penchant for bigger films and larger-than-life characters was present right from his childhood. He reminisces, "From a young age, I had this vivid imagination. When my father started working, he would tell us scenes he had developed, and I would amp them up in my own way. He mentioned in an interview, "I like larger-than-life ideas. I take an impossible situation and then make the audience believe in it." His films have themes often related to fantasy and Hindu mythology. He frequently admits that his films are inspired by the ancient Indian epics Ramayana and Mahabharata. He recalls the influence of these epics in his childhood. "What if Karna had Bhima's mace and Bhima had Karna's bow? I'd really trip on such things." He revisits the Amar Chitakatha comics and keeps reading different versions of the Ramayana and Mahabharata from time to time. Rajamouli spoke about the mythological elements in his films as follows: "I am deeply influenced by mythology. Including it in my projects has always been a very subconscious decision because I grew up listening to the stories of mythology from my grandparents. It is completely embedded in my blood. Whatever goes in, comes out. I have so much input of mythology, it comes out in my stories in different forms. I feel very proud of it." The scene in Simhadri where the protagonist impales a gangster on spikes overhead, and bathes in his blood invokes the iconography of Lord Narasimha, the fourth avatar of Lord Vishnu. Bahubali series has many elements which resemble Mahabharata and Ramayana. The Devasnabalaleva scenes mirror the Sitaravana interactions in the Ramayana. The Bahubali-Balaladeva conflict parallels the Pandava-Kaurava conflict in the Mahabharata. The idea of reincarnation was first used in Magadhira, following that it was next seen in Ega. Piyush Roy, a critic and film historian, attributes success of Rajamouli's films to his ability to merge the essential lessons and emotional points in Indian epics with grandeur of visuals. He further notes that aspects like constant duel between good and evil, women as strong characters, presence of mother figures like Kunti and Gandhari are recurrent themes of Rajamouli's stories. Rajamouli frequently mentions that his films are not a reflection of his personality or worldview. He notes that the mythological and religious themes in his films are storytelling elements intended to create strong emotional impact on the viewers. "My storytelling has remained the same as that when I was in class 2. The setting of my films is extremely unrealistic and transports you into a fantasy world. I like people to come out of their world into the one I have created. I like people to be awestruck by my films." Devarsai Ghosh of India Today observed, "The themes of an orphaned hero, a secret backstory, a separated family and a protagonist in search of his/her origins are prominent in Rajamouli's films. Jealous siblings and adopted sons who strive to prove their loyalty, feature prominently in Simhadri, Chhatrapati, and Bahubali. Love is a key theme in Magadhira and Ega." His films also have elements of tragedy which is not typical for commercial Telugu cinema. The death of Vikram Rathore during the central set piece in Vikramarkudu, Kaala Bhairava jumping off the cliff in Magadhira, the self-immolation of the fly in the climax of Ega, the betrayal and death of Amarendra Bahubali in Bahubali films. Rajamouli's films feature strong, principled heroes who never give up in the face of daunting odds. Among the Navarasas, the Veera Rasa is most prominent in his films. Piyush Roy notes, his plots have all elements of exploits of a hero and heroism. His heroes are not only mentally upright but also physically strong. His antagonists are irredeemable with no moral compass. His protagonists have graduated from pure brawn in Simhadri, Chhatrapati, and Vikramarkudu to thinking, intelligent heroes who overthink their antagonists in Maryada Ramana, Ega, and Bahubali. Rajamouli also experimented in Maryada Ramana with a protagonist who is not hypermasculine or courageous, traits which are typical of the lead characters in his films. Revenge is a prominent theme in his films. In an interview with Sandeep Vanga, Rajamouli said, "I believe revenge is the strongest emotion. I don't set out to make a revenge drama in particular. Revenge is an emotion that strongly and easily resonates with the audience. So, most of the time it's revenge." His films generally use a wide range of animals, and Rajamouli attributes this to his love of animals. His films have a liberal dose of violence, often in stylized action set pieces. Regarding violence, he notes, Indian epics are full of violence, and such stories have shaped India. As filmmakers, I don't think anyone in India would tone down the violence, keeping in mind the censorship. The violent scenes are often employed to induce awe in the viewer by invoking mythology. His films also feature protagonists wielding ornate weapons. Filmmaking style. Most Rajamouli films follow the three-act structure where every major plot point has a setup, confrontation, and resolution. This results in a screenplay where every plot point ends on a high note and the film having a clap-worthy moment every 10 to 15 minutes. Several of Rajamouli's films feature flashback episodes where the protagonist's backstory is revealed, typically in the second half of the film. This narrative style is used in Simhadri, Vikramarkudu, Magadhira, Bahubali, The Beginning, and RRR. The high point of Rajamouli's narrative style is considered to be the pre-interval scene, the scene immediately prior to the intermission. His pre-interval scenes rev up the emotions of the audience, creating a high point that increases the interest for the second half of the film. Rajamouli's films typically have a central, brutally violent set piece that provides dramatic catharsis, resolving narrative threads that the film has set up, while escalating the stakes. Examples include the Godavari Pushkarala fight scene in Simhadri, the pre-interval fight scene in Vikramarkudu, the 100-soldier fight scene in Magadhira, and the battle sequences at the end of both the Bahubali films. This violence is often carried out as a ritual, with ornate weapons. The violent scenes are often employed to induce awe in the viewer by invoking mythology. Rajamouli says, I learned that if I make my story based on basic human emotions, I have a chance to connect with more people. He also prefers action sequences with strong emotional build-up and motivations for the protagonists. For me, the character being emotionally charged up at that moment to go into that action sequence is very, very important. He described his films as big-scale action movies driven by hardcore emotion. Rajamouli's initial films have comedic subplots and songs that are not integral to the main plot of the film. He noted, initially, I used to add a lot of scenes for the sake of comedy, songs, because I used to fear how people would react if they aren't there. Once I got a lot of confidence as a storyteller, I no longer see the necessity to do all that. Rajamouli regrets not working for a longer time as an assistant director. When I made my first film Student No. 1, I didn't know how to use a crane because I never used a crane while I was doing my TV serial. He mentions basic shot making as his biggest shortcoming as a director. I still don't know which shot exactly gives me what I need. I get so many doubts whether I should keep the camera standard, whether I should move the track in slowly, how close should I really get close to the eyes, close to the face, whether I should go a little bit to the top. There are thousands of options that run through my mind and I don't know which is the right thing to do. That is my shortcoming. I can't decide which is the right camera angle, he noted in an interaction in June 2022. In the beginning of his career, Rajamouli used to act and show the actors how to perform or enact the character and was very adamant on the minutiae of their performances. Slowly I realized that all my actors are looking the same. All my actors were imitating what I was doing. Then I thought, why do I go to a particular actor? Because he has a specific ability. Then I started hammering the emotion into the actor and let them perform accordingly, he noted. Beginning with the Bahubali films, Rajamouli started conducting workshops with the major cast members and writing everything about a character, the complete backstory of the character including traits and events that aren't present in the final film prior to the commencement of principal photography. Rajamouli's later films use extensive pre-visualization executed by concept artists. The previsualization process includes traditional storyboarding on paper, animated storyboarding, and animation. All the stunts are practiced, performed, filmed, edited, and set to music by the stunt team, without the cast, and presented to the heads of departments before the filming begins. Rajamouli's films typically are visual effects heavy, and he is one of the pioneering filmmakers in India in integrating computer-generated imagery with live action. He prefers practical effects over CGI and likes to capture as much footage as possible in camera. Rajamouli's craft in CGI has improved with time. The CGI in the underwater shark fighting sequence in Chhatrapatha was considered ambitious, but choppy. The CGI sequences in Magadhira, Ega, Bahubali, and RRR are more polished, with each film improving upon the previous one. Visual storytelling. Rajamouli's later films focus heavily on visual storytelling. He noted in an interview, "While creating a story, I think if I switch off this dialogue portion, will the audience still connect to my movie? Many times, the answer is a yes. I try to tell my story through visuals. I try to put in as little dialogue as possible, but the dialogues we do put in, my writers take excruciating care, writing version after version so that nuance does not get lost in translation." Multilingual films. Rajamouli's films starting from Ega have been made in Telugu language and then dubbed into various Indian and foreign languages. He described the process of making a multilingual film in this way. "My thinking is in Telugu, the script is in Telugu first. But even before I go to shoot, I send the script to other language writers so they also get into the clue of what the film is about. Those dialogues may not be the final ones I am going to use in the film, but they read the script, and if there is anything that complements my story, I change the Telugu version. It's an elaborate process because they write, but have to check with the lip sync. You can't have a 20-word sentence in place of a 6-word sentence. We get the lip sync right, but we don't compromise on the quality." Influences. Action and adventure films are Rajamouli's favorite genre. Rajamouli frequently mentions Ben-Hur, Braveheart, Maya Bazar as his favorite and most influential films. His other favorite films include Miss Amma, The Last of the Mohicans, The Good, The Bad and the Ugly, Terminator 2, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, City Lights, Apocalypto, Kung Fu Panda, The Lion King, Aladdin, Sherlock Holmes, Django Unchained. He expressed his liking for the films of James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, John Woo, Guy Ritchie, Quentin Tarantino. The chariot race scene in Ben-Hur was a strong influence on him in his childhood. Magadhira, RRR, and Bahubali films feature scenes with horses and chariots, and Rajamouli acknowledges Ben-Hur as an inspiration. Rajamouli has cited Mel Gibson as his favorite filmmaker and as the biggest influence on his filmmaking style. He mentioned that he considers Gibson to be his guru. He also compared himself with Ekalavya to Gibson's Drona. He regularly pays homage to Gibson in his films. He noted in an interview, "Many of Mel Gibson's films have a very, very big influence on me. The way he blends the action with the drama, how he slows down, how he switches the dramatic moment before the action explodes, I really, really love it. I get really inspired by his action a lot. That's one thing that really comes to my mind when I talk about action films. It's what inspired me to do action films." He is also deeply fascinated by the films of Vijaya productions like Pathala Bhairavi, Jagadika Viruni Katha. He noted, "Those films stirred the creative juices in my childhood itself. The artists, their body language, dialogue delivery are all etched into my memory permanently." Rajamouli attributes his sense of drama to his father Vijayendra Prasad, under whom he worked as an assistant early in his career. He is deeply influenced by the novels of Maladai Venkata Krishna Murthy and Yandamuri Virendranath. He also expressed his fondness for the works of Wilbur Smith. He generally dislikes horror films, especially ones that involve jump scares. He is more receptive to films that scare the viewer with their theme or story. He mentioned his favorite films in the horror genre as The Omen and Paranormal Activity. Among Indian directors, Rajamouli cites K.V. Reddy as his biggest influence. Ram Gopal Varma and Raj Kapoor are other Indian directors who had influenced him. Among his contemporaries in Telugu cinema, he expressed his admiration for the works of Sukumar and Trivikram Srinivas. He also praised the work and cinematic style of Rajkumar Hirani and Anurag Kashyap. For Bahubali, Rajamouli was inspired by the tales of Amar Chitrakatha and Chandamama along with the Sanskrit epics Mahabharata and Ramayana. For RRR, he mentioned the Motorcycle Diaries and Inglorious Bastard as his inspirations. Collaborators. Crew. Rajamouli frequently collaborates with a set of crew members and technicians. Kodagiri Venkatswara Rao, under whom he started his film career as an assistant, has edited all of his films except RRR, which was cut by A. Srikar Prasad. K.K. Senthil Kumar served as the cinematographer on 8 of his films. Among art directors or production designers, he worked with Anand Sai for Simhadri, Sai, and Yamadanga. S. Ravinder worked for 5 of his films till Ega, and Sabu Cyril worked for Bahubali series and RRR. M. Ratnam worked as a dialogue writer for all 6 of Rajamouli's films starting from Simhadri till Magadhira. Among action choreographers, he collaborated with Peter Hine in 5 films: Student No. 1, Chhatrapathy, Magadhira, Maryada Ramana, and Bahubali, The Beginning. Ram Lakshman worked with him in 3 films: Sai, Vikramarkudu, and Magadhira. Vijayan worked as the stunt coordinator for Simhadri and Sai. King Solomon worked as the action choreographer for all his films starting with Ega. Lee Whitaker worked as an action director/stunt coordinator for both the Bahubali films. R.C. Kamalakanan served as the visual effects supervisor for 5 of his films: Yamadanga, Magadhira, Maryada Ramana, Ega, and Bahubali 2, The Conclusion. V. Srinivas Mohan worked as the visual effects supervisor for Bahubali, The Beginning, and RRR. Iranian citizen Adel Adili, who previously worked on Yamadanga, Englishman Pete Draper, and R.C. Kamalakanan founded Makuta VFX based out of Hyderabad. Makuta has extensively collaborated with Rajamouli in all his films from Magadhira till RRR. Rajamouli also came on as a director of Makuta on paper for 2 years initially to get them a footprint in the film industry. K. Raghavendra Rao produced his debut film Student No. 1 and presented the Bahubali films. Cherry was the executive producer for Chhatrapathy, Vikramarkudu, and later produced Yamadanga. BVSN Prasad produced Chhatrapathy and was the executive producer for Magadhira. Shobuyar Lagada and Prasad Devinani produced Maryada Ramana and Bahubali films. Rajamouli regularly collaborates with many members of his extended family. His cousin M. Keeravani has worked as the music composer for all of his films. His father Vijayendra Prasad provided the story for 9 of his films. His wife Rama Rajamouli worked as a costume designer or stylist for all of his films starting from Sai. His sister-in-law M. Srivali, wife of Keeravani, served as a line producer on 4 of his films and also worked as a publicity manager for Yamadanga. His cousin S.S. Kanchi collaborated with him on 4 films in the writing department, including as a story writer for Maryada Ramana. His uncle Siva Shukta Datta, brother of Vijayendra Prasad and father of Keeravani, worked as a lyricist in 5 of his films. Another uncle of his, Koduri Ramakrishna, was the CO lyricist for Sahor Bahubali along with Datta. Rajamouli's cousin Kalyani Malik works as a sound supervisor for his films. Raja Koduri, another cousin of his, contributed to Bahubali series in technical departments through AMD Radian. Rajabali, another cousin of his, worked as a VFX assistant for Bahubali. His nephew Kaala Bhairava, elder son of Keeravani, worked as a playback singer in 5 of his films. Sri Simha, younger son of Keeravani, worked as a child actor in Yamadanga and Mariyada Ramana, along with minor roles in Ega and Bahubali, The Beginning. In addition, Rajamouli's stepson S.S. Karthikeya also works in the production or direction department of his films. His adopted daughter Mayuka along with Keeravani's daughter acted in the song Sahor Bahubali of Bahubali 2. Kalyani Malik's son Maya lent his voice in some parts at the end of Bahubali 2. As many as 15 members of his extended family had worked on Bahubali 2. Cast. Rajamouli has worked with some actors frequently in his career. Junior NTR starred in 4 of his films, including Rajamouli's debut film Student No. 1. Prabhas has starred in 3 of his films, Chhatrapati and Bahubali series. Ram Charan collaborated with him on Magadhira and RRR. Ravi Teja starred in Vikramarkudu and provided the voice for Bicycle in Mariyada Ramana. Sunil starred in Mariyada Ramana and played a supporting role in Magadhira. Sudeep played the antagonist in Ega and had a cameo in Bahubali, The Beginning. Anushka Shetty played the female lead in Vikramarkudu and the Bahubali series. Shreya Saran played the female lead in Chhatrapati and was also cast in RRR in a supporting role. Ramya Krishna appeared in an item song in Simhadri and later played one of the central characters Sivagama Devi in Bahubali films. Salani had a cameo in Magadhira and later played the female lead in Mariyada Ramana. Momaith Khan appeared in item songs in Chhatrapati and Magadhira. Kota Srinivasa Rao worked with him in 3 films. Nasser acted in Simhadri, Sai, and the Bahubali series. Pradeep Rawat was introduced to Telugu industry by Rajamouli as the antagonist Bhikshu Yadav in Sai, which won him fame. He later worked in Chhatrapati as the villain Ras Bihari. Narendra Jha was also introduced to Telugu cinema by Rajamouli. He was cast as the antagonist Baji Rao in Chhatrapati and later also acted in Yamadanga. Supreet worked in 3 films of Rajamouli as a goon or henchman of the main antagonist. Rajamouli gave Prabhakar his first full-fledged role in Mariyada Ramana, which became his breakthrough role. Prabhakar named his son after Rajamouli as gratitude towards him. He later played the Kalakaya leader Inkoji in Bahubali, The Beginning. After the film's success, he came to be popularly referred to as Kalakaya Prabhakar. Rajamouli also regularly collaborates with Rajiv Kanakala and Chhatrapati Sekhar, who appeared in 6 and 9 of his films respectively. Rajamouli also worked with the comic actors Brahmanandam, M.S. Narayana, Venu Madhav, Ali, L.B. Sriram, Raghu Babu, Srinivasa Reddy, Sivanarayana Narapeti, Hema in multiple films. Tanakela Bharani acted in Student No. 1, Sai, and Bahubali. Samir, A.J., Jaya Prakash Reddy, Rao Ramesh, Subbaraya Sarma, Surya, Preeti Nigam acted in supporting roles in many of his films. His cousin S.S. Kanchi acted in 4 of his films apart from working in the writing department. His nephew Sri Simha, younger son of Keeravani, worked as a child actor in Yamadanga and Mariyada Ramana, along with minor roles in Ega and Bahubali, The Beginning. Recognition. Rajamouli was cited as an influence by directors like Prashanth Neel and Ayan Mukherjee. Prashanth Neel noted, with his films, he brought immense recognition to South cinema and he is a big source of inspiration to all of us. Ayan Mukherjee cited Rajamouli as one of his 2 gurus in the filmmaking world along with James Cameron. He noted that there is a lot of Rajamouli's influence on his film Brahmastra, Part 1 Shiva. Filmmaker and actor Rahul Ravindran says, "Every time someone tells me during a script discussion that doing this or not doing that will make the script a hit film, I always say, how can you be sure? Nobody can be, except Rajamouli sir." Matt Groening, the creator of the television shows The Simpsons and Futurama, while discussing his inspiration for Disenchantment, mentioned that Rajamouli had made some of his favorite films of the last decade, especially Magadhira. He added that the show has homages to Rajamouli. Noted filmmaker Mani Ratnam mentioned that the success of Bahubali inspired him to work on Ponniyin Selvan. He said, "I want to thank Rajamouli Garu. In a way, he has opened a door for all of us and has shown us that this kind of film can be made. You can tell stories in two parts and be successful. It has become possible because of Bahubali, so I really want to thank him." Film trade analyst Komal Nata told Al Jazeera, "Rajamouli has an impeccable track record. Every film of his has worked. It would not be wrong to say that he's the biggest ever." Manoj Kumar R of the Indian Express writes, "It's a rarity to find a director who sells more tickets than the leading stars of a movie. And in that respect, he has monopolized that space." Latha Srinivasan of First Post wrote of him, "A filmmaker whose actors and producers have blind faith in knowing he will not let them or the audience down, and can dedicate years to his project. And this is an extremely hard feat to achieve in this day and age when every actor and director is as good as his last film." Sagar Tetali of Film Companion noted, "What they have meant for Telugu cinema is the triumph of directorial ambition over the actor star, the triumph of a brand of storytelling over the South Indian star image." Rachel Dwyer, professor of Indian cultures and cinema at SOAS University of London, notes of him, "S.S. Rajamouli is perhaps India's most significant director today. He can make a film in a South Indian language that, when dubbed, becomes a pan-Indian film that can also be enjoyed overseas." She adds, "S.S. Rajamouli is now widely regarded as one of India's greatest directors." Rajamouli's impact on Indian cinema is yet to be assessed, but he is perhaps primarily responsible for galvanizing the interest in South Indian cinema that is now being watched all over India. Indira Kannan, a film critic, noted, "Rajamouli and his last film RRR may have single-handedly prompted not just Indian audiences but also cinephiles worldwide to look beyond Bollywood while seeking entertaining Indian blockbusters." Pan-Indian films. Through his Bahubali films, Rajamouli is credited with pioneering the pan-Indian films movement, where a film is simultaneously released in multiple Indian languages and is made to appeal to audiences across the country, cutting across the linguistic and cultural barriers. Gautam Jain of Ormax Media, a media and entertainment consulting firm, writes, "Before the release of Bahubali, The Beginning, the term pan-India film did not exist in film media or audience lingo." He also calls him the original pan-India filmmaker and the most successful pan-India filmmaker. Vijay Kiragander, the producer of the KGF films which were huge hits across the country, credits Rajamouli for making Bahubali films and giving him the confidence to take KGF, Chapter 1 to audiences across the country with a multilingual release. Filmography. Film. Rajamouli has directed 12 feature films so far. Television. Box office performance. The budgets and box office figures are all estimates collated from various sources like newspapers, magazines, reputed film portals, etc. Wherever the estimates vary, a range of highest and lowest estimates is provided. All values in Indian rupees are converted to US dollars based on the average yearly exchange rate data from World Bank.